For those that I don't know, I see some familiar names that are on the call, and so pleasure as always. You can't talk to me, but you can Q&A throughout the call if you want to ask a question or say hello, whatever. Good to have everyone. Good to see some familiar faces. For those that don't know me, my name is Eric Blackwell. I've been with Outfield for close to 4 years now. I sit as a senior account executive here at Outfield, so I'm all new business. And so you potentially talked to me when you were initially onboarding, and have talked to me since. But here for today's purposes, really using this as an opportunity to kind of just rerun through Outfield if you are already in it. Reintroduce you to kind of what you have in terms of your tech inside of Outfield. And I think the hope here is that it would, just give you a refresher to some degree, but it would also maybe point you in, a direction you haven't thought about in a while, right? I think it's easy when you begin using Outfield for the first time to, one, either want to take it slow, or two, want to dive in really, head first into like all the things it offers. And I think for those that kind of want to start slow and kind of fall more into that bucket, you can tend to kind of just get stuck in that and maybe not branch out. And so, point being, opportunity to relearn about a lot of things that exist in Outfield for a reason. And as we always kind of mention on these calls, we've been doing these weekly since the beginning of the year. These are posted on our YouTube channel, so definitely go back. We're doing these in all kinds of ways, specifically mobile app, specific to order functionality. We've done a bunch of these at this point, and we'll do them moving forward. This will be a more general overview, but if there's anything that I don't know, really catches you today, reach out to your account manager, reach out to our customer success team. If you're new to Outfield, you can also reach out to me, and we can start up some of those conversations. But with that being said, the kind of game plan for today is really just to kind of go through both sides of Outfield. As you guys probably all know, we have our mobile app and then we have our web component. And so I'm going to kind of run this how I typically might run a demo, and kind of a similar thing that maybe some of you have seen since I did my first demo alongside you potentially. We're going to start specifically on Outfield's mobile app and kind of lay the foundation, the groundwork for what it looks like to use Outfield on the go, on the fly, out in the field, right? And kind of day in the life of someone in that role, right? Whether you're a salesperson, a field marketer, a brand ambassador, whoever you are, kind of what that, kind of looks like in Outfield. Once we kind of cover those things, I think that'll, kind of lay the groundwork to go and look at the back end component. And we'll cover some high level things around reporting. We'll cover as well some things around just kind of back end tweaking, updating, things of that nature. And so with that being said, I'm going to pull up my mobile app here, and I am going to introduce everyone to, for some of you, it'll be a familiar face. For some of you, it will not be. But I would guess most people have seen Jennifer Aniston before. And so that's who we're going to be hanging out with. Rachel Green from Friends. We're going to see the Friends team navigating their way through Outfield today. A little bit about what they do, which doesn't really matter. The way Outfield works across the industries we serve is very similar outside of very kind of minor nuances. But Rachel, she works in the consumer packaged goods space, so fast moving products, right? Some of you might be in the healthcare vertical. Maybe you're more so in the industrial vertical, insurance, you name it. We service across a lot of them. But Rachel and her team, they work for a virtual reality equipment company. They sell and market, VR equipment. They sell headsets into retailers and even schools and universities and things of that nature. So essentially, if we break it down, B2B, right? And so we're going to be exploring kind of their usage of Outfield, general usage of Outfield. I like to tell a story as much as I can to really, kind of tell a point throughout. But with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. So as soon as we jump in the mobile app, as I'm sure a lot of you know, the first page you're going to land at is your Places page. Places in Outfield, that is our term, our verbiage for accounts, right? Your different businesses that you work with that you're selling to, marketing to potentially. And so, you come in, you're going to see your places. Something to keep in mind inside of places or related to places, we do also have contacts. Those can be associated with each other and linked to each other. And so if we open up our side menu, we can actually see nested under the accounts is places and then contacts. Now, Places are really where we're going to be spending the majority of our time in terms of actually logging and executing activities, maybe planning routes, things of that nature. And contacts are really more so just associated with those records. We can associate them with activities, and we'll kind of look at what that looks like. Now, coming back here, as soon as you get into your places page, we're going to notice we have a search bar up here. We got this gear icon with the magnifying glass. We've got this golf tee icon. All of those things are pointing us towards the opportunity to filter and search against our account list. And we're going to get to that here shortly. When you immediately come in here, none of those things are going to be applied technically. And so we can come in and we can see just generally our territory, our account list, whatever we're assigned to see. We can see those alphabetically. At the top of this list, something you may or may not remember or know, we always group up 3 accounts at the top and we label them nearby places. And so what that tells me at any given moment of the day, or really tells Rachel at any given moment of the day, is those are actually the 3 closest locations in proximity to where she is at any given moment, right? And so it's alluding to a little bit of kind of building this spatial awareness, helping her understand what's nearby, what's around her. And it's helpful in kind of 2 ways. I think 2 ways kind of come to mind. One of those being it's opportunity for me to be pulling up to a building, a business, and hey, it's just going to pop up on my list. I can tap into it, go in, log my check-in, my visit, whatever, and then on to the next, right? The other thing is it's just, again, kind of building that spatial aspect. It's helping me very quickly identify, hey, this Game Time location or this Best Buy is right by me. I might be able to pop in there because this appointment I had got canceled, right? And, kind of the point I'm getting at here, if we want to take all of this a step further, which is a big component of Outfield, kind of the spatial aspects and being aware of your whereabouts and what's around you, we have the red button down below. It says View Map. If we tap into that, that's going to flip my screen into a map view. And so now, instead of looking at my list of places, I'm looking at a map of my places. I can always toggle back and forth those views. And now that I'm on the map view, I can see live and current traffic additions. We're here in Houston. For those that aren't in Houston, Houston is notorious for horrible traffic, so this is actually not terrible. But we can see our pins across the map. We actually notice there's a white pin right here. There's a gray pin right here. We'll talk about why in here in a little bit. We're also going to see some numbers here. These numbers represent a high density of accounts in a specific area. And so as I zoom in, we'll actually begin to see my pins kind of scatter accordingly. And the reason we cluster them together is for optimization purposes. Otherwise, the phone might move a little bit more slowly. But as I begin to zoom in, we will see my current location beacon or Rachel's current location beacon. We can see an account that she's right next to. If I zoom out a little bit more, obviously I can see some other accounts that might be down the street on the way, to a next stop, that kind of thing. And so the goal at hand, right, is just opening up that awareness, helping them understand what's around them, what's nearby, all of those things. And, because I think we all know the nature of outside sales, field marketing, whatever it is that you do, you likely find time being handed back to you in several ways, shapes, and forms throughout your days and weeks. It could, again, to my point earlier, be in the form of a canceled appointment. Or maybe I knock out my visits early that day. And so, hey, there's always opportunity to say, hey, I can pivot to these accounts that are just north of me and, then head home for the day or whatever it might be. That's what we're about, is saving time, maximizing efficiency, filling our time when we need to, all of those things. And some other things to keep in mind. This could be, unique to your team or not. Some accounts that we work with, some companies we work with don't prefer to, add accounts as they go. They more so want to manage that from the top down. But some, kind of give their team kind of the autonomy to say, hey, if you find a prospect that doesn't exist in Outfield today, let's go ahead and get them added in, right? And so if you are kind of in that second bucket, there's this plus sign at the top right of the screen. This actually gives us the ability to add in a new account. So we saw kind of our current list of accounts, which doesn't necessarily mean they're current customers, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But this gives us an opportunity to add things on the fly. We've got 3 options here. We can add a location manually at the bottom. That is going to be the most manual way, as it says. We then have add place in the middle option by dragging a map pin. And I can actually show what this looks like. I actually tapped on the wrong one. When you tap on this, sorry, it's going to pull up this page where it's going to drop a pin on exactly where you are. And so you could hit select place and, with where the pin is, it's going to geolocate your location. And then, you can backfill the rest of the info, or I can drag it over a building or wherever I want to drag it, right? When I hit to select place, it's just going to backfill the address component only. You can then change the name, update it to the actual account name, business name, whatever it might be. You can then fill in other details, obviously, as well as you scroll down. And then we can save it into the system here. Now, backing out of that, It looks like we're getting a little bit of lag. Coming back into this, I want to talk about the prospecting tool. If you are someone that is actively prospecting, or you're someone that wants your team to be actively prospecting and you want to give them the liberty to add those things in the Outfield, pay them visits, all those things because they don't exist in the system today, this Prospect for Places tool at the top of the screen is really going to be their best friend. This is essentially a Google search embedded in the app. You open up this search bar, you punch in a keyword, and it's going to ping Google Maps database and pull back the top results in your specific area, right? And so if I wanted to, we'll come in here, we'll just type in grocery as our example. We hit search. It's going to pull by the nearby grocery stores in my specific area. I don't have to stop here. I can expand my search by just zooming out on the map. I could, drag it over to another part of Houston if I wanted to. But now when I re-prospect this area, we're noticing that I'm pulling in a lot more accounts now. And so this is something that you can use preemptively if you wanted to, like, hey, the night before I'm going out and, maybe paying visits to current accounts, prospects, whatever. Hey, I just want to scope out some potential accounts to kind of put on my list to see at a later date. You can use it in that way to kind of add things for later use, right? Or if you actively show up at a business and you don't want to type in, the name, components, all that kind of stuff, you could just try to Google search it here in this tool. It might, find it if it's on Google Maps. You could just tap on if it's Kroger, right? You'll notice when you tap on any of these accounts, it's pre-filled with a lot of the kind of basic details, the name, the address component, the phone number, and then you can always update other pieces of information. If we scroll down this list, we'll see email fields, website fields. We're also going to see these starred fields down below. For those that don't know what these are what we call our custom fields. These are totally unique to all of our clients that leverage Outfield. Some of your custom fields might look similar to what we're seeing here, like a tier status, where I can actually drop this down and label this account as a tier 1, 2, or 3 account. Maybe it's gold, silver, bronze, whatever it might be. I can label them by specific type of account they are, right? Hey, I want to label this as a retail account or a university or school, a technology company, an industrial, company, whatever it might be. I can label them accordingly and save them in there. And so these are custom. This is something that, hey, if you have never seen this before or you want to update what your custom fields look like, get with your account manager. We can certainly help in terms of getting some of this stuff cleaned up, implementing new custom fields, because this will grow really the value in terms of some of the search functionality, planning, execution stuff that we'll get into here shortly. And when you add an account into Outfield, you have the ability to save it at the top right, or you can immediately check into it. When you tap check in, it's going to save it and start your visit at the same time. It just kind of saves time there. And then again, if you're just saving it for later, you'll just tap save it for later. And then when you go pay a visit to that account or call them for the first time, right, that's when you can log your first activity underneath them. So some other things to kind of point out here on the mobile app. I want to talk about something that, could be relevant to those that are on the call. Again, some of you, I believe, are users. Some of you are more so in the admin role or manager role. And so whether you're a user or a manager, doesn't really matter. But when I think about Rachel coming into Outfield to start her day, right? She comes into her app and she sees maybe 100 accounts across Houston. It's not a ton. And so it may not be super overwhelming. I know for a lot of you, the account list could be multiple hundreds. It could be 500. It could be north of 1,000, right? And that's when Outfield can, and really even just looking at a spreadsheet, a list of accounts, right, can begin to feel a little bit overwhelming in terms of where do I start? What do I need to go and do? What is actionable? Who needs to be followed up with, right? And the best ways we're going to equip your reps and even Rachel, right, to go and execute the way she needs to and kind of cut through the inevitable noise of her accounts. At the top right of the screen, we have what looks like a golf tee, okay? And that opens up our filters when we tap on it. And these filters you can use in all kinds of ways. These filters, we have several of them, and we'll have some more that we look at here shortly. But this first one that's actively running right now is called by last activity. We run this by default, so you can just see, you probably noticed when we were looking at the list format, you could see the activity date, the last activity date underneath the account. You can also search and colorize your map pins by those last activities at the same time. And so that's what's happening. We saw on the map, we saw like a white pin and a gray pin. That white pin meaning an account I've never seen before. The gray meaning it's been over 3 months since I've seen them, right? We can see the legend down below. And so this is enabling me, hey, if I just want to see all the accounts maybe I've never seen before, we'll hit apply. And now I'm just seeing those displayed here. And when I tap back to my list view, it's the same thing. It's just showing me accounts that I've never seen before, which can be good for routing purposes and planning purposes, which we'll get to. And so that's not the only filter. You can filter. Last activity is telling you any kind of activity type. So whether you logged a note, a phone call, email, check-in, whatever it was, it's bringing in any kind of activity type. And so if you want to be more granular and more specific to, hey, the last time I actually stepped foot into that business, we're going to filter by last check-in. And it's going to give you those same options below. It doesn't really change anything, but it's just making it a more granular search specific to what you might want to see. And so you have all these activities that you can filter by. Last check-in is generally going to be the most helpful. Something else to keep in mind. We have this concept called forms. I'm sure most of you are familiar with what forms are. We'll cover it here shortly, but you can filter by the last time you completed a form. Forms in Outfield generally are used as an opportunity to almost tag a visit, identify the type of visit that's occurring, right? And so, hey, if I'm Rachel's team and I want to see, hey, all the accounts that we haven't trained up, right? That's my top option, a training visit. All the accounts that it's been over 3 months since we've trained their staff, right? That's an opportunity to, hey, I want to filter and understand those accounts and schedule trainings with them potentially, right? So you can get very unique and customized with kind of that option. You do also have the ability to filter by your deal stage. The pipeline, as probably a lot of you know, is very custom. For those that are maybe more so closer to like the CPG space, like fast moving goods at like a retail level, you may have something that looks a little bit different than what my pipeline looks like. Maybe we're even connected to your ordering system, your ERP. And so we're just really actually equipping you with more so of an order pipeline. But what we're seeing with this pipeline, it can be used in several ways. Generally, it's an opportunity to bucket your accounts, right? And so I've got my lead status opportunity. We've submitted a proposal. It's been accepted. We've closed it. And then we have account follow-up, right? Yours will likely look different, and that is okay. This is more of an opportunity to begin to kind of tag and bucket your accounts through different statuses. And then, hey, right, if I want to spend a day focusing on, hey, all my accounts that have outstanding proposals, right? I'll just check that off, apply it across, right? It's opportunity for me to leverage my pipeline in different ways. And if you have interest in talking more about pipeline, again, I recommend reach out to your account manager. There are likely, there is likely some level of value that we can instill by using this, or maybe using it better than we're using it today. Now, the last thing I want to mention, you see this Buy Custom Field tab. This is going to give you the opportunity to leverage any of those custom fields that exist in Outfield. And so this is bringing to the table the opportunity to filter and sort by, hey, I want to see, this specific tier of account in my area, right? Or this specific type of account in my area, right? It's allowing you to get way more granular. And so those are filters available on this side. One thing I want to keep in mind for everyone on this call, when you think about planning and deciding what accounts you want to go see, walk with me quickly through this workflow. Let's imagine that, hey, Rachel, she wants to see all accounts that haven't been seen in, either ever, or it's been more than 3 months, that also exist in a specific tier and specific type. Okay, the way we're going to do that, we're going to come into Buy Last Activity. And I'm going to come down here, and Rachel's going to filter by just accounts that it's been greater than 3 months since we've seen, or never, right? We'll hit apply. And so that kind of gives us our basis, right, in terms of activity dates. Now, what I'm going to do next, if we may or may not know this is something that was released over the past 12 months. And so, you may be privy to it, you may not. Stacked on top of those filters, if you look to the right of the search bar, there's this gear icon with a magnifying glass. If I tap into that, that's going to open up my advanced search. Okay. And so what this offers opportunity to do is say, hey, yeah, it's helpful to filter by last activity, but I'd also like to filter by maybe a postal code, maybe some custom fields, my specific area, whatever it might be. And so that's what this does. When you tap these little boxes here, I can begin to further restrict my search by any account detail. So whether I want to pick a specific postal code, I want to pick a specific deal stage, I want to pick a specific type of account, right? And so I'll pick a type of account. We'll do retail, and then I'll add another search. And hey, I want to filter by not only retail, but all retails that are tier ones, right? And so now I'm effectively searching. Again, we go back to the activity dates, greater than 3 months or never. We're now also searching only retail accounts, and we're only looking at tier 1 retail accounts. And so when I hit search, we notice that maybe 40, 50 accounts that we were seeing before I placed those filters has now been restricted maybe down to 20. Right? And I can see those things. I can come back to my list, and this is where we can actually begin to plug and play those things directly into our route. And that's where I'm going to lead us next. So just something to keep in mind. Play around with those filters. If there are new things I just showed you, there is a lot at hand in terms of effectively planning and equipping yourself to plan better. And so the thing I'll bridge into next is routing and mapping in Outfield. When it comes to planning your day, planning out your weeks, maybe, there's a lot of ways to do it in Outfield. There's not one perfect way. And so when it comes to planning, you can start in your side menu if you want and go into your calendar specifically. If you are a pre-planner by any means and you like to pre-plan, maybe you already do it this way in Outfield, but the calendar offers an opportunity to basically just simply upload, hey, these are all the accounts I want to see on this specific day. And so I can do that the night before, I can do that a week before. I can do that and plan those as I'm visiting them. Hey, when I'm paying this customer a visit, I want to go ahead and plan my follow-up for 2 weeks from now and kind of just set and forget it and have this kind of compile over time. So that's kind of method number one in terms of planning, and I'll actually show you how this ports directly into your route. But coming back to your locations, we'll look to the right of each of these accounts. Another way you can start adding in locations is tapping these three little white dots, right? If we tap on that, it's going to populate an add to route button for me. And so I can come in here and start adding locations into my route. Keep in mind, all that work I did to filter and sort, you want to do that stuff before you start blindly adding accounts into your route, right? This is not what you want to do. Don't mimic what Rachel just did in terms of just blindly going down her account list. These accounts could be scattered from east to west across Houston, right? And so use the filters to your advantage, right? Use those to filter, sort, search, and hey, these are the 10, these are the 15 accounts I want to go see, and I can just plug and play, right? And so that's kind of another method. Now, once I've plugged locations in, I'm just going to tap plan route at the bottom left of my screen. It's going to bring me to this page. And so I can see, my current location. If I scroll this up, I can see my start and end point, which are set to my current location. I can change that. I can see my stops in between. I can see potentially how long this trip might take me, how many miles, potentially things of that nature. Now, what if I want to further edit, add, manipulate? We'll look at the top right of the screen, and this is a really important piece. We'll go to edit, okay? And this is going to bring us to the back end of our routing tool where once here, Rachel is allowed to remove things if she wants very easily. Red button to the left right here. She can hold down on these three little gray bars to the right of each account. And if she holds down on that, she can drag and drop these accounts in a specific order if she would like. She also has the ability, as I mentioned, we have the calendar, right? If you're planning in your calendar, we're just going to come in here. And depending on what device you're using, I'm on an iPhone right now for these purposes. And so I'm not going to see all these buttons displayed. And so I'll just tap this more button at the bottom right. We'll tap add from calendar, that purple button, and it brings up my calendar, what I'd planned. And all I needed to do is just tap add to route at the top right of my screen. It's going to ask me if I want to replace what's in my route or just add those on top. For this instance, I'm just going to add them on top, and those have been added into my day effectively. And so keep in mind with that calendar, again, if you are entirely planning through your calendar, I mean, it makes your life really easy because you're just basically porting the calendar, optimizing your day, and then, the next day you're doing the same thing. But you can always one-off add, right? If you want to add more stops at the bottom left of your screen, hey, I forgot to add something to my day. I can just pull back my list of locations and hey, I want to go and visit ArcLight Gaming as well. I'll check that off, hit done, and now that's been plugged into my day. Last couple of things for those that maybe haven't seen this at the top of the screen, you can always toggle when you're building your route. You can toggle the view to a map view. And this is going to bring you to a map view where you can see all of your accounts in your territory. All of your pins are going to look very distinct though, and different than what they looked like before. We're going to see a lot of red across our map. We're also going to see a few blue or kind of turquoise pins in between. And so effectively the story we're telling here is it's reading what currently exists in our route and actually telling us kind of a little bit around what our day might look like. And so as I zoom in here in Houston, I can see red pins, which are actually indicative of accounts that are not in my route. And then I see like these blue ones, one south, one towards like the northern part of Houston. Those are accounts that are in my route. And just to kind of show an example, I mean, this is something you can use if you operate in a fashion where you just like to kind of go chunk by chunk in your territory. We have a lasso tool on the screen that you can tap on that enables a drawing tool where you can actually begin to circle around accounts and add those in. It's also opportunity if you happen to be finishing your day or maybe halfway through your day and you're visiting an account that's like very close by others, it may be opportunity to just, tap on them or lasso around them to just go ahead and, put those in as a part of your day, but just know that's available. It can be used in all kinds of ways. And so I kind of introduced everyone to all the bits and pieces that go into route planning. The order in which I did those things is not the proper order. It's what you grow comfortable with over time. You may already be comfortable with a specific way you do it. Or maybe you just got some ideas from this, hopefully, right? And so once your route is ready to go, there's really two options. You're either going to hit route, and that's going to route it in the order it's sitting in, or you're going to go ahead and tap optimize. And optimize, when we tap on that, it's going to be reading our start and end point where we currently are. It's going to read our stops in between, and it's also going to take in current and historical traffic conditions with the goal of getting you around traffic and making your day as seamless and efficient as possible. And so we save close to an hour of drive time. It's probably a little inflated because we're here in Houston. Again, traffic is horrible, and I'm kind of growing across the city. Not a super efficient day, but typical time savings you might see might be closer to 20, 30 minutes a day. But compound that over a week, a month, it's a healthy amount of time you're being handed back. And so going from here, we're kind of in the home stretch of the mobile app before we kind of move to some back end components and just kind of explore what exists on the back end. Once you built out your route, you may just kind of live here for the rest of your day, because effectively what you're doing is you're just coming in here, and for Best Buy in the energy corridor, I'm just going to tap go. It's going to prop up whatever mapping tool exists on my tablet, my phone, whatever, whether that's Apple Maps, Google Maps, Waze. I choose that. It's going to route me to that location. Once I get there, I'm coming back into Outfield. I tap on this Best Buy, and it's going to open up the profile, right? And so I would imagine most people are familiar with this screen. When you tap into an account, you are going to see at the top of the screen the title. You will then also see aggregated touch points and kind of different stats around the account that you can kind of scroll through. Hey, do I have any upcoming tasks? Do I have any notes I've stamped in? How many touch points do I have? Things like that. For those that have our ISO intelligence tool, which I believe maybe we've done a webinar on, or if we haven't, we'll probably do one soon, but you've maybe seen newsletters around it. We can embed custom analytics into your account profiles, and kind of create custom dashboards specific to accounts if there's specific metrics you might want to see. So reach out to your account manager if you have any interest in exploring that ISO intelligence tool. That's how you kind of tap in and unlock those things. But as we scroll down, we will see the different activity types we can log: check-in, phone call, email, task, note, etc. Primarily when you're using the mobile app, you are likely checking in. And so we'll go through that workflow here in a little bit. What you'll see is any historical data, right? This was the last visit that Rachel had at this Best Buy. It was April 18th, 2024. She did a pop in. She checked in on their demo station that they have up and running at this Best Buy. Got a photo of the man in the store that was actively testing it out and using it. She filled out her retail form accordingly, and the past visit before that was actually our first ever visit. And so, looking back at history, hey, I can see my first ever visit to this account was 2023 in October. My second ever visit was the year following, about 6 months later, and then since then I have not stepped back in that door. Maybe that is just opportunity for me to, equip myself prior to the next visit, to maybe commit myself to being in that account more, or maybe it's, maybe that signals an account we're not currently in, or we're not currently getting referrals from, or doing business with, or whatever it might be. I'm able to see those things. Now, other things to kind of mention down below, as you're inside of an account, we see calendar, we see deals, we see goals, we see info. Tap into your calendar. This is going to show you your calendar specific to that account. And so this is just opportunity to, like, hey, I want to plan my next stop, plan my next visit. I can do that right here, right now, inside of the account. The deals. I tap into deals. This would give me the opportunity to kind of understand where this account sits in terms of my pipeline, or if you've crafted your pipeline to more so facilitate orders, right? I can come in and I can see, how many orders we've closed, total revenue, month-to-date revenue, things of that nature. But this is where you could come in and, hey, if this is an account I'm seeing for the first time, I want to create a deal for them, qualify them as maybe a lead or an opportunity. I save that in there. They're now in my opportunity stage. Once they're in there and I want to maybe change them and progress them through, you'll notice when you go into the stage and see the deal, there's a change stage tab. We can tap into that. Hey, I moved them to my proposal stage now. And it'll be reflected in that feed when we go back in there. Once it syncs over, we'll be able to see those progressions kind of mapping through. We do have goals. We have two types of goals in Outfield. I would imagine a good amount of you are using goals to some extent. We have goals that you can create for your team, for your users, yourself, right? And those could be goals set around maybe check-ins. Those could be goals set to specific visit types. Maybe it's revenue, whatever it might be. We can also set goals at the account level. And I apologize for not having one ready for this demo, but this is where that would pop up. You'd actually be able to see, hey, if we imagine this Best Buy was a maybe key account that we set some kind of target on that we want to be in front of them once a month, twice a month. This is where you could actually come in as you're going to explore their page or go pay them a visit. I could actually see kind of my progression towards making sure I'm staying on track with this account's specific goals. So if you have any interest in setting up goals specific to your accounts, again, reach out to your account manager. More to learn about some of those things. You've got this info tab where you can tap into and see the general details around the account. Maybe contacts that are associated with it. But as we wrap up the mobile side, just want to walk through the check-in process. As a lot of you know, when it comes to Outfield, we want to try to relieve the burden of call logging and living in CRM as much as possible. We don't want this to be a burden. We want Outfield to feel like it's your buddy. It's helping you be more efficient. It's saving you time, all of those things, more organized, right? That is the end goal. And so when we think about, let's just imagine Rachel, she's arrived at Best Buy. She's sitting in her car. She's opened up her account. She's kind of reviewing her history, her notes, right? Getting equipped for that next conversation. Well, now she's ready to go. She's stepping out of her car. She's going to tap check in, and it opens up her check-in, her visit per se, right? It's time and date stamped. We're going to capture the duration of time for reporting purposes, and we can kind of review some of what that looks like. You've got this title box here, this note box where you can jot down high-level information around your visit. You could also, if you want to, speech to text into that note box if you prefer something like that. We, as of pretty recent, maybe 2 to 4 weeks ago, we added the ability to associate other accounts or contacts with your activity. So if I tap add accounts, I don't have any contacts that are associated with this, but I'll just uncheck to show my unlinked contacts. So, hey, if I knew Ahmed Rosario and Billy Blanks were people I talked to at this location that I visited, I'm going to associate them with that activity. So now we can see they're listed, and it'll actually update their records in Outfield as well. So it's a way to kind of streamline and not have to check into multiple locations, right? When you're in one building, potentially that might have a few different providers or whatever that might look like. The big component here, as a lot of you probably know, we're big on forms in Outfield. This is meant to not entirely replace the note taking process, but really supplement it in a really valuable way for, not only the person using Outfield, but also the company. And so when I tap into my forms, I'm going to tap that select button. It's going to give me my list of forms. And I want to use this as an exercise. Some of you, I would imagine, have, you created your first ever forms alongside us, and maybe you've never touched them again. And that's okay. That's totally fine. I'm going to use it as an opportunity to maybe convince you otherwise. And then there's some of you that have actively changed, added, edited throughout your time with us. And that's also great. Forms in Outfield are very custom. They're very unique to any company we work with. Even if you're in the same industry, you likely have different forms. And that's because you care to see different things. You care to capture and understand different things. The goal of these forms is meant to tag and associate your activity by the type of activity it is, right? Knowing any kind of business, even for Rachel, again, she primarily, her team go out to like retailers, think like a Best Buy, a GameStop, and they're selling and marketing VR equipment. And so they're more so in that space. And if we look down this list of different visit types, they outline potentially the different types of interactions and visits that we might, kind of want to log and actually do when we're at a customer or a prospect, right? And that's kind of the idea, is that not every visit necessarily looks the same. Maybe it does, that's great. But I would venture to guess that there are some differentiators. And so this is opportunity to say, hey, if I have reps and teams that are going out and doing staff trainings and educations around our products or services, let's have a forum to capture those kinds of interactions, right? If we're doing some kind of demonstration, a sampling of our product, an event, let's have a forum specific to that. If our team is going out and knocking on doors cold, doing prospecting, let's have a forum to capture a cold call. If we're going into a store and merchandising, if we're going into a retail, right? And so these forums aren't even the best examples, but these should begin to help the wheel spin in your head in terms of maybe where we can take this. And so for this example, I'm just going to highlight my initial visit form. I've got my kind of key list of questions. I keep it short and sweet. If this is a cold call and a new account that I'm visiting for the first ever time, there's probably a few key pieces of information that I want to capture. And so I've specifically built out a few kind of discovery questions. Hey, did you meet the decision maker? I check that box and now ask me what their name is. Do they currently carry any VR equipment? Okay, they do. And so if they do, I'm now asking myself, well, what brands are they carrying? Now I've got a pre-built list of potentially competition, right? Okay, they're carrying PlayStation and HP. And so all of a sudden, through just a few clicks, maybe a drop down here and there, I've now captured very seamlessly a lot of very organized and also crucial data to one, use during that call or maybe use for my next one, right? If I now know, okay, I met the right person, we got a follow-up scheduled, I know that they're actively carrying my kind of product already, and I know who we're going up against in terms of maybe getting our product on the shelf, or, if you're more so in the services space, hey, I know who, they're actively referring, who our competitors are against, things of that nature. I've now very well equipped myself to, hey, when I go back into that store, I can quickly review my call log, my notes, and go back in with a level of strategy and focus. And so it silos it. It's also somewhat of a training mechanism for us to, like, hey, if we begin to build out these forms and have these questionnaires posed as they're logging their calls, hey, I'm going to begin to just kind of remember what questions I should be asking and equipping myself better for these calls, because this is not meant to be something where Rachel walks in and talks to Ahmed Rosario and she's just like looking at her Outfield app the whole time as she's having a conversation and entering in notes. That's not the goal. It's more so meant to, hey, as I fill these out and do it repetitively, I'm going to remember, hey, when I go in, obviously I need to meet the right person. I need to ask these specific questions, right? And same thing for any other kind of visit. And so one of the last things I want to mention when it comes to the forms, if I didn't already make this clear, these are totally custom, totally unique. Hit up your account manager if you have any ideas, any, kind of questions, things that, directions you might want to take this. But the nice part about these forms is we've also begun to centralize other workflows inside of them. And what I mean by that is you're noticing, hey, if I scheduled a follow-up, if I know I'm leaving this account and I want to go see them a month from now, or actually scheduled a specific time to go back and meet with this person, let's go ahead and put that in my calendar while I'm checked in, while I'm filling out my form. And so I can tap that add from calendar button, plug and forget that account into my calendar, and then come the day that I'm actually going back, I can just port that into my day, my route, and go and visit them. I can do the same thing with tasks, right? I can add my tasks and action items. Hey, if I left this account and there was something actionable, I need to place a phone call to someone, the buyer, whoever I'm talking to. If I need to send an email to someone, bring by some marketing materials, POS, whatever it might be, I can plug those things in as tasks. The nice part about tasks, you can set a specific due date. Within those due dates, you can also tag reminders inside of them, and have those reminders go off in a period of time before it's due, via notification or via email. And then lastly, you can also plug deals in where it makes sense. And so if this is a new account that I'm visiting for the first time, I would venture to guess maybe they're not in our pipeline. Maybe I want to put them in there. And so I can create them, place them there if it makes sense for your workflow. The last thing I should mention, you can capture photos. So you can always stamp photos with the top right there, or maybe in your forms, you have photo capture being prompted through the questions. That is also an opportunity to do that. But once you're done checking in, you're just going to tap checkout, confirm our duration, and kind of on to the next. We can see that account got updated with that activity. And to kind of wrap things up on some of the mobile aspects, you look in the left-hand side menu, we can see our landing page dedicated to tasks, to calendar. We do have a chat tool in Outfield. If you use this or if you don't use this, this is essentially our own version of kind of an integrated messaging tool. Maybe think of it like a Slack or a Teams. Not quite as robust as some of those systems, but it's just unique to Outfield, internal to your team. If you want to create different channels for different topics and discussions and allow your team to collaborate, engage with each other throughout the day, it's opportunity to do some of those things. And one of the last things, I won't spend too much time here because we actually did a webinar on this last week. This is league play. This is some of the gamification elements that we have in Outfield, where you can begin to create a game, customize the scoring system based on different things your team is doing, and host competitions, pin your reps against each other, not in a, super competitive way, but competitive, but keeping it light and fun. And it's an opportunity to just engage the team, have some fun together. We have a lot of our clients that are having a ton of fun with some of this stuff. And so reach out if there's any interest in learning more about those things. But with some of the time we have remaining, I want to make sure we spend some of our time allocating to the back end of Outfield And so we are flipping over here, and we should probably be seeing our team activity feed. And the first thing I want to mention to everyone on this call, there are a lot of similarities between the mobile app and the web component. If you are someone that is field sales, outside sales, field marketing, brand ambassador, whoever you are that is really primarily using Outfield from their mobile app, that is great. Also know for, days and times where you have a down day, an admin day, an office day, you can open up Outfield and you can access your accounts. You can access your pipeline, your tasks, your calendar. And so if you prefer to pre-plan in your calendar from your desktop, absolutely start doing that. Leverage the desktop version as an opportunity to not have to be on your phone all the time, fat thumbing things in, right? Some of that kind of stuff. But I want to look at a few kind of key places. The team activity feed is great. It's an opportunity for everyone on the team to engage with each other. We updated this feed very recently to actually collapse the map when you load this page just for optimization purposes. But if you want to load it up, we just open this up and it brings up our map. As a lot of you know, this team activity page basically shows us history of our activity. We can see kind of where the different locations that those activities were taking place at. We can see aggregated touch points here as well. And we can layer heat on these maps, turn our markers off, kind of begin to kind of help our team paint a picture of like, hey, in our Houston market, we're spending a heck of a lot of time on this one specific part of the western part of Houston. If I'm the manager of this team, I maybe don't love that. Or even if I'm just a rep, right, and I own my territory, this is an excellent way to get into Outfield and understand your own activity. Hold yourself accountable to make sure that, hey, I'm, visiting all of our locations, our businesses. I'm not just kind of favoring specific ones, right? There's obviously importance in, territory coverage and the way we go about it and nuance to those things. But this is just an opportunity to kind of get more granular with that. On this feed, a few things I want to mention. A lot of you, maybe, if you're more so on the management side, you're probably getting emailed daily reports, weekly reports, monthly reports, things of that nature. If you want to see other things or pull your own reports, this is a great place to do that. The team activity feed, you can put filters in place. Like I'm filtered and looking at a couple years worth of data just because it's a demo account. But hey, if I want to filter and look at all of my cold calls or initial visits, and look at a specific team member and pull a report specific to all of Chandler Bing's initial visits, I tap let's go. It's going to give me all of the data on that. And then once I filter that, I can just tap generate report and it'll actually generate a PDF summary of all of those visits and stats that Chandler logged, right? And I can always export the raw data into a spreadsheet if I would like. So just know that's available as well for anyone that likes to bring things into a spreadsheet, do VLOOKUPs, do things in Excel that I'm not privy to. You can run advanced searches on this as well. And so you're not just held to what filters you have available here. Hey, if I want to filter and look at a specific city, a postal code, custom field values like my tiers and types, I can really begin to restrict and visualize things specifically. And then, obviously pull reports off of those things. Now, some other things I want to look at. We looked at this on the mobile app, the places page. It's not going to look a ton different outside of, generally the layout of what a mobile app typically looks like against a web component. But this is the places page from the back end. I come in here, again, I can expand my map out so that we see our territory again. On this page, again, you can also add places. You can use the prospecting tool. We actually have it built into the map here to where I could just come in and I could quickly identify all the McDonald's in my area, just tap prospect, and hey, I can actually see a bunch of McDonald's and start adding them into my locations or adding them into my list if I wanted to. So you do have that prospecting tool from there. So if, again, you are a rep and you want to do some of this prospecting maybe ahead of time, this is an excellent way to do that the night before, the day before, or just kind of on the fly when you have time. You can colorize just like you could on the back end, or sorry, the front end, the mobile app. You can toggle your places and look at contacts instead if you want to. You can run advanced searches if you want to restrict again, and look at like, hey, all the accounts that I haven't seen from this time period. You can filter by specific, other kinds of metrics. And then down below, you're going to see your list. It's going to be more of like a table view, showing a little bit more data next to the accounts. Obviously, we have a little bit more kind of real estate when we're looking at a desktop view or laptop view. These columns are somewhat custom in nature. You can tap this customize column button. And so you can bring in last activity. You could also restrict it if you just wanted to see, whoops, get that out of the screen. There we go. If you just wanted to see specific types of activities, kind of like I was showing on the mobile app, like, hey, I want to see last check-in as a column. But then you can also bring in like, hey, I want to see and maybe specifically understand, hey, the last time I executed a specific form at that account. Also custom fields if I want to see in those columns, my tiers, my type. Anyways, you can customize those. You can bring up to 8 in this setup. One other thing to keep in mind, this select action drop down, this is going to be more so on the management side of things. If you ever have questions around bulk assigning accounts to team members, this is where you can do that. And you wouldn't just want to come in here unless you want to assign everything to your team members. You would just not search against anything. You typically want to restrict what you're searching, restrict it down to city, territory code, whatever you might have in your system. And then you can bulk assign and unassign things. You can bulk assign goals to your accounts. You can bulk assign and update custom field values, which is nice. So just some little things you can do within the UI. And so that's a little bit around just kind of the places and manipulating some things, looking at your accounts in different ways from the web component. Some last things that I want to look at. We've got the pipeline here. This is the pipeline view from the web component. And it looks a little bit different than what it looks like on the mobile app. The mobile app is specific to your accounts. It's nested inside the accounts. Here, again, on the web component, we have a little bit more real estate, so we can show really a full table view of where your accounts sit, where maybe if this is your use case, maybe where your orders sit in terms of your pipeline. And I can filter through, and if we're associating dollar values or we're using a custom currency to log something else, we can see those aggregated stats, the number of deals, how many exist in our stages. We can also see underneath each deal how long it's been sitting in the stage for, the last activity that's taken place. And so this is also a good opportunity if you're using this in more of a business development or kind of a prospect pipeline way. It's a really nice opportunity to just kind of double check, hey, let's make sure that we're following up with prospects that we've submitted a quote to, or we have an outstanding proposal, or we've considered them and marked them as hot prospects or whatever, right? It's opportunity for me to see those things just like you can elsewhere. You can filter, sort, look at this in all kinds of ways. You can visualize all your deals where they exist on the map, and you can always edit your pipeline too. We'll tap this edit button just real quick. And this is going to bring me to the ability to edit my pipeline. It's very easy. You can add more stages. You can change the names to whatever you want to change them to. You can drag and drop these in whatever order you kind of want to have them sitting in. And so very easy to always make adjustments. You can change the currency. Obviously, a lot of us are going to be US dollar, but you can also add in a custom currency. If you are, maybe you work more so in healthcare and you have a team of marketers or liaisons, that are out there more so going into doctors' offices and driving referrals back to your clinics or organizations, right? Maybe you want to bring in and actually label your pipeline by referrals and maybe start beginning to track prospective referral opportunities, things of that nature. Opportunity to kind of get customized in those senses. Some other things to kind of keep in mind. I'm tapping on this Performance Plus tab. This Performance Plus tab is going to house a few things. If you want to explore more around league play, if you want to begin to set goals and or achievements for your team, or if you want to look at living and breathing stats and analysis in Outfield, that's what I'm going to hone in on with the time remaining today. When I go into analytics, it's going to show me my suite. And so you got a suite of analytics depending on what you're using, what you're not using in Outfield. We have a couple add-ons that help read and analyze revenue numbers and apply them across accounts and different products and reps, and you can set goals around them and that kind of stuff. We also have another add-on that's specific to actually allowing you to house your product catalog in Outfield and create orders or ingest them down from another system. And so if you have some of those add-ons, these inventory stats, order stats, revenue stats down here might be a little bit more relevant, but just to keep it somewhat surface for kind of today and diving into some of the basics. Some of the tabs that I generally point my clients to, we've got this productivity tab, which is immensely helpful in beginning to kind of tell and craft craft the story around where our time is being spent. We can come in here and we can analyze basically the activity over any time period. I'm looking at just the past 6 months. That's what it auto sets to. I'm looking at all team members. I've got my X direction broken down by month. We're looking at totals. And so I can see the ebbs and flows month over month. Obviously, again, this is dummy data, so it's not the prettiest. We had a lot of action in January, specifically around deals. I can see total aggregated stats per activity. I can see splits here in this donut graph. And so just think with me here for a little bit. This is an opportunity to like, hey, if I'm coming in and I want to analyze across my team the past month of activity, and the expectation with my team is like, hey, we're expecting to log more so a lot of check-ins more than anything. If I saw something like this, I'm maybe gonna scratch my head and maybe say, hey, let's focus on checking into accounts rather than doing all these other things. We need to be in the field with our customers, those kind of things. That's kind of the value you can get out of something like that. What also makes this interesting, you can break this down by form. And this will begin to help you tell the story of not just the amount of activities logged, or more so specifically the number of check-ins logged, but actually begin to tell you the story of not only how many check-ins happened, but what those check-ins were, right? Hey, 9 of those check-ins were initial visits. 7 of those were first visits. That's redundant. 1 of those was an event we did, right? And so it's actually giving you, based on the forms you have in your system, it's effectively giving you the splits of like, hey, we're spending over half our time knocking on new doors, right? Maybe for some of you, maybe that is such a focus and that is the perfect number, exactly where we want them to be spending our time. That's great. But also for some of you, maybe it's not. Maybe we are, as a company, we need to make sure we are nurturing and spending time with our current accounts. And so maybe that split should look closer to like, hey, we're spending 80% of our time with our current accounts and maybe 20% of our time try to grow, and grow our book, right? And open up new doors and things of that nature. And so the forms allow you to really get more granular in some of those kind of senses. These market insights, this is where some of you might be familiar with this, some of you might not be. This is actually where you can begin to aggregate the responses of your forms. So if you were ever interested in filtering and understanding, hey, how over the past month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever it was, has our cold call form been filled out, right? I'm going to hit let's go. I can't promise that we're actually going to get any data because it's a dummy account, but it's essentially going to read that form. It's going to spit out the stats, the responses, and basically quantify and analyze those things based on any question that can be quantified and analyzed, right? We can't do it if it's a text field entry, a text box, that kind of stuff, but we can if it's a checklist, a checkbox, a number field, choice list, those things. And so, hey, did you meet the decision maker question? When I come down here, I can see that, hey, 91% of the time when we're cold calling, we're meeting the right person, or 10 total is the actual number. 9% of the time, or 1 total, I can see where we're not. And this will be one of the last things I kind of mentioned through. I am very big on making sure your forms are in the place they need to be, because they not only extend value to the end user and equipping them to log their call at a quicker pace, stay more organized and consistent, but it also helps you as a company, you as a manager, begin to tell a better story around the impact specifically around our visits, right? And where I'll kind of leave off is, as I read through some of these questions, and even looking at this first one, and maybe this is a bad example to some of you, but this question of, hey, did you meet the decision maker? When I read these results and we're looking at, hey, over the past 6 months, when my team, when Rachel, Joey, Phoebe, Monica all went out and cold called, we're meeting the right person at a store or at an account 90% of the time, my first thought is going to be one of 2 things. Either we're kicking butt at cold calling and we need to do more of it, right? Or, hey, maybe we're not using the form right, or maybe there's some, fudged entry, whatever, right? It's opportunity for me to just take some level of action to say, okay, let's cold call more, or hey, let's explore a little bit more around what's happening here. Hey, these 10 accounts that, we did meet the right person at, have we actually done anything with them since? Right? Let's take those next step. Let's identify those accounts, talk with the rep who covers that account. Hey, what's your plan? What's your action item from here? The goal of these forms, I think it's easy when you think about the forms and the way they're used. It's easy to get excited about them and then build out a million questions. And those million questions do a couple things. One, they burden the end user, and then two, a lot of those questions don't end up mattering and they end up collecting dust. Use these forms as an opportunity to collect truthfully the KPIs that are really impactful. That when you get the stats around a question like this, they point my brain in a direction of action that, hey, I can make some level of strategy based on these numbers. I can, make some kind of decision. I can coach my team based on some of what I'm gathering, right? And kind of retool them to equip them to better conduct a call like this potentially. So this is all at your disposal. We are here to, I'm big on the forums, so that's why I spent a lot of time today talking about those things. I think it's a really foundational piece of Outfield. So talk with your account manager, brainstorm internally. We're here to kind of help you reconfigure things. You've got leaderboard stats that you can tap into that aggregate data team member by team member. And then I guess really last housekeeping item while I have you, that I think I should cover today is this import exporter. While we're just on the web version, I know a common question we get to our account managers, I get it to our support team is, hey, how do I pull something out of Outfield, or how do I import a new list of accounts, right? Things of that nature. And obviously still send those questions our way. But we're always here to kind of help guide you through what this process looks like so that you can really own your Outfield and do things and be self-sufficient. That's our goal, is to empower you as best as possible. But you'll notice when you go to this import export section, you can import and export account details, activity, calendar events, deals, all basically anything that exists in the system, even calendar, team members, all that kind of stuff, right? And so when it comes to all of these things, know if you're wanting to upload hey, you got a new account list from somewhere and these accounts don't exist in Outfield today, I want to get these in Outfield. You can create places and it'll give you a little template that you can kind of match up and maybe clean up your data a little bit and then push it into Outfield, map out your columns. You also have the update option. If you are looking to more so simply, hey, we have our accounts in Outfield and I just want to clean up some fields here and there, maybe some address information, some of our custom fields, or even create a new custom fields, you can export your account list and then update it, push it back into Outfield with its updates. And you'll want to make sure you pull the ID alongside it. Again, if you haven't done that process, just reach out to us. We can kind of guide you through. You've got the export on activities for calendar. For those, we work with some companies that they are more so implementing some level of a call cycle on behalf of their team. Hey, you're going to routinely hit these accounts every first week of the month, second week of the month, third week of the month. You can bulk import calendar events via spreadsheet. And so you could almost kind of set and forget to some extent your routes and kind of preemptively get them in there for your reps. And that way they're just, when they're routing, they're just adding everything from their calendar. They're not having to do a ton, all of that kind of stuff. And then you can also import deals, all of those things. But just wanted to make mention of this page that does exist. For those of you that don't know, that we can always import new things, update things in bulk. You don't have to do it manually, one-off, all of those kind of things. But things I may have left out today that, if you were curious and exploring, you can always dig more into some of the league play stuff. The settings will actually bring you to the scoring system itself to kind of take a peek at where your forms live. If you ever want to go and make edits, if we tap setup, this will bring you to this page here where you can tap into your team members. If you ever need to manage team members, you can manage your forms as well. I'll just go ahead and open this up. It'll bring up your forms where you can see any active forms. You can always deactivate your forms over time, but you can just tap on them to open them up and edit them. You can create new ones at the top right of the screen. I also want to point everyone to this support page here. If we tap here, maybe everyone's seen this, but this is also a wonderful tool because we have pre-built modules and walkthroughs here on the support page specific to some of like the gamification stuff, something specific to setup if you want to get a little tutorial on importing or exporting accounts. creating forms, things of those nature, more so admin manager focused items, more so rep focused items. There's a suite here of little tutorials and walkthroughs to further equip you to better use Outfield. Again, we are more so proactively using our YouTube channel now. We're doing these webinars on a weekly basis. We already have a ton that we've posted since the beginning of the year. We've got our YouTube channel here. I think we've done a mobile training. I think we've done more of a specific admin session. This is also, today's more so been a broader overview. We've done things around some of our kind of add-on components and extra functionality and things like that. And there's a lot more coming down the pike. So just keep your eyes peeled. We have our playbook, which is blog posts around our CRM and upcoming features. We've got blog posts around some of like gamification and the value of those things. And then down below, we've got contact details. So know most of you likely have a account manager that you are directly tied to and can reach out to. But also know you can hit up our support line at any moment. So you can, use our support email, use our support phone number to get in touch with that team. You always have access to them. But I'm going to look at see if I can pull up. I don't know, Sam, if we had any questions coming through as we were doing this. It looks like we're kind of in the clear, but I'll stay on for another minute or two if anyone had a quick question they wanted to punch into the Q&A. But I basically wrapped. So for those that are good to go, want to jump, thanks so much for your time. I'll stick around for another minute to see if any questions pop up, but really appreciate those who've joined. Again, reach out to your account manager if there's anything that caught your eye today. You have more questions about, want to dive into, and we look forward to it.